A final from Seattle where Ohio State wins it 24-6, capped off by this touchdown from Julian Sayin to C.J. Danielson on 4th and 1. Ohio State holding the Huskies to 1 for 11 on 3rd down. They racked up 6 sacks. The Buckeyes have allowed a total of 22 points in 4 games as they shut down the Huskies' high-powered offense. Julian Sayin, 79% completion percentage. He matches that in this game. That leads FBS 22 of 28, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Jeremiah Smith, 8 for 81 and a score. Jeremiah Smith also leads FBS in receiving touchdowns, 19 since the start of last season. Ohio State Big Ten opener, first road game of the season, and they go on the road and get the win in Seattle. Back out to Washington, where Gary Danielson joins us now. And Gary, you had a front row seat to this game, and what you saw was pretty much the same identity that you've seen from Ohio State through the first 3 games. Their defense will just suffocate you. 6 sacks in this game. Caden Curry had 3 of them. What stands out to you about this defense, who changed play callers, went from Jim Knowles to Matt Patricia, and they've not missed a beat?
Yeah, that's the case. I mean, Ohio State keeps putting defensive players in the NFL and replacing them with high-level talent. You know, you think back to, the days we did the SEC where Alabama would just reload, Georgia would just reload, LSU would just reload. That's how you get to be one of those teams that year in and year out attract the best talent from around the country, because they know they may not start as freshmen, but when they get their chance, they're going to be playing with great teammates. You saw it again today. A couple early plays that could have gone either way went Ohio State's way, and then they just overwhelmed them by the pinpoint passing from Julian Sayin.
One of the questions you had, Ohio State fans had, was what would Julian Sayin look like in his first road game? And, of course, we saw him play well against Texas, but first road game in a hostile environment, very loud. What did you learn about the young man Julian Sayin in that atmosphere?
Yeah, it was interesting. So early in the game, I'm looking out there and I can see that they're taking away, number 4. And I'm going, Ohio State's struggling a little bit. Should they not open it up and use the other talent? And very patiently, I thought Brian Hartline and Ryan Day managed their quarterback, got him kind of used to the water. You go out there, get used to the cold water, get used to the fans. I thought they brought him along. With the help of the Washington offense that couldn't score, they were able to bring him along slowly. He got comfortable, and then he was able to show you why he's such a highly regarded thrower. I mean, his accuracy is something to watch and understand, and as a former quarterback, you just appreciate his quickness, the way he throws, his ability not to make rash decisions. He really is going to be a good deal for this Ohio State football team.
Sayin's first touchdown pass in this game goes to number 4, Jeremiah Smith. Just throw it to 4. Did it look as easy as you saw it when that play developed? That looked like easy street to me for Ohio State, the way that play unveiled.
Yeah, I thought that was too big of a gamble for Washington at that time. They brought, 7 people up front, an all-out blitz. They tried to push Ohio State out of field goal range. They caught a trick play, not really a trick, but it was a quick screen over the middle. All of the Ohio State receivers never even turned around. They were all blocking their man. And then you catch, Jeremiah Smith with the football 1 yard downfield, and he just turns it up and score. I thought if they could have held him for a field goal there, they had a real chance to make this a football game. Got aggressive, and they paid dearly for it. That's why it looked so easy on that play.
Ohio State hands Washington their first home loss since 2001. It was a string of 22 straight home wins. Buckeyes coming to Seattle, get the win. Gary Danielson on the call. Appreciate the time. Always spending with us here on CBS Sports HQ.
All right. My pleasure, guys. Thanks.
Always love to talk to Gary. He's able to break the plays down right there for us post-game. I mean, look, this Ohio State team is excellent, right? They won the national championship last season. They have 2 of the best players in the nation on their team in Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. Jeremiah Smith now with 19 touchdowns since the start of last season. That leads FBS in receiving TDs. Ohio State off to a 4-0 start as their defense is dominant once again on the road against Washington. Still ahead, much more reaction from Seattle. Emory, Hunt, Cardale Jones back in studio. We'll break it down. A big road win for the Buckeyes. Next on CBS Sports HQ, presented by Belfour. Back here in studio, Emory, Hunt, Cardale Jones. Cardale, I'll give you first word here. Ohio State alum, national champion. That right there was a national championship performance on the road in your Big Ten opener. What did you see?
For sure. I mean, there's three things you need to pack on the road with you, especially when you talk about Big Ten play. It's toughness, run game, and defense. Ohio State brought all three of them. And if you want to throw one in a turnover battle, I know they had a turnover early, but when you have a suffocating defense like the Buckeyes have, they can mitigate those turnovers, and it really doesn't have a huge impact on the overall success of the game. But when you talk about their rushing, rush for almost 150 yards versus a team that's really good and having a running back that's considered one of the top running backs in the country and probably the top running back in the Big Ten, and then holding these guys to 61 yards. And you talking about the toughness, so many tackles in the backfield, so many sacks for this Ohio State defense. To make a Washington offense who scored over 50 points last week in the Apple Cup look very mediocre at home, riding on a 22-win streak game at home since last time they lost at home was 2001. That was a very impressive win for the Buckeyes, and that is a momentum and confidence builder for those young players on both sides of the ball.
I love how recency bias tends to take over a lot of times, and we go into these ball games expecting Ohio State to look like Ohio State in their heyday with all of these explosive playmakers averaging 40-plus points a game. But this was a team that's trying to find its identity, and I thought they did a great job today in showing you, okay, we can play any type of game you want to play. We got enough out the running game. We did enough out the passing game. This game was won by their defense, and Cardale touched on it, how they just dominated Washington up and down the field, especially inside the red zone, forcing those field goals. And they were, 10 on
11
on third down. So, I mean, you win situational football. You made timely plays in the passing game. You made timely plays in the run game. We got to see the growth and development of a future Buckeye star in Bo Jackson running the football. So I thought this was a really good game, considering the opponent, considering the situation they were in, and considering how the game started. Washington
was sluggish.
It was sluggish, and Washington looked like they were going to go down there and just kind of go up double digits on Ohio State. And Ohio State found their sea legs and got the job done.
Well, you saw what happened. Ohio State gets a stop and a punt, and then it's a terrible punt by Washington. Ohio State has the ball at the 50. I mean, you're thinking, okay, it's going to be 7-0 here in a couple minutes. Ohio State gets stuffed. Then there's a fumble on a kickoff. Then there's some penalties, and it's just a sloppy going. But then you see Julian Sayin. He missed a couple throws early, but then he makes that perfect throw on the crossing route to Jeremiah Smith, and they made it look really easy. What did you see on that play? Because that was what gave them the lead, and they didn't relinquish.
You know what? This is my favorite part about this, being able to dissect and really get deep into the play. This was a masterpiece by the play caller, the execution, and clearly the quarterback as well. For a young freshman quarterback to have a free hitter in his face and knowing what he's have to do. So this is clear out blitz zero, miscommunication by Washington. They didn't pass off the communication with the switch release by Jeremiah Smith, and I think that's Brandon Ennis down there. And it's pretty much a tunnel screen to the opposite side of the field, knowing that this team was going to give you blitz zero, knowing that you was going to beat them with this tunnel screen, and it worked. And it worked to perfection. But when you talk about the poise and he got a guy right in his face, right? Being able to change his arm angle to get it to Jeremiah Smith and Jeremiah Smith do the rest. We watching a young guy grow up right before our eyes, and Julian Sayin making these type of plays in such big moments like this. That's not easy. I can tell you why it's not easy. One, you got a guy wide open, so those always the hardest passes. And then two, you got another guy screaming right in your face after Julian was already hit a few times after getting rid of the ball. So he showed some toughness, he showed some growth, and the biggest thing for me, what he showed today on the road is poise.
And I love how he stayed married to his technique, because when you saw how quickly he got deep into his drop with his
that is the knowing what's going on around him, knowing where my free hitter is coming from, knowing how to get the ball out, knowing how to change my arm angle. That's growth. Right, another guy, probably a young guy in that environment. I mean, still 4 games into his young redshirt freshman career at Ohio State. He's playing like he's been doing this before.
If we take his silo performance versus Texas and pair it with this game, to your point, the growth has been tremendous, because he looked calm as all outdoors in this ballgame. Even on that play, Cardale touched on a guy in his face. He knew where he was going with the football and put it perfectly. He didn't overshot him. He threw it right where it needed to be so he can continue to catch and run. And even throughout the ballgame, he took some hellacious shots and was still staring down a gun barrel and throwing the football downfield or completing passes downfield. And I like his poise. I like how he showed command of this offense and really played a good game. Where you saw on the other side, Williams kind of collapsed under the pressure under the moment. He slipped a lot of times out there. We didn't see Sayin do anything like that. He kind of stayed on pace, stayed on schedule, and got the win in a tough environment. So this was a extremely pleasant game for me to watch this young guy grow up.
Well, the reason Ohio State gives Washington its first home loss since 2021 was also because of the defense. We had questions. How would Matt Patricia come in? How would they pick up the slack right when Jim Knowles leaves? And he's disguising coverages. He's moving guys around. We saw Caden Curry, the defensive end, just cooking right here. They're able to essentially silence Washington, and that's what Cardale said. They're coming in at 55.7, but then you'll go, well, they didn't really play anybody. And you can make that argument. That's fine. You're playing the #1 team in the country. But the consistency, Emory, that for me is the takeaway here. They didn't go outside of their identity.
What I love, what I saw defensively from Ohio State today, great open field tackling team. We rarely saw broken tackles or missed opportunities to get a guy on the ground. And to me, that's what a lot of teams fail against Washington, especially against Jonah Coleman, the outstanding tailback. He's about my size, and so he has a low center of gravity, and he's breaking those tackles. But this game, Ohio State, everyone that touched football for Washington and that was met by an Ohio State defender, the ball was dead on the spot. It was no extra yards, nothing like that. And that's how you get to be 1 out of 11 on third downs. And I love the fact that this team was showing great technique, consistent throughout the course of the ball game, and got those stops when necessary.
Yeah, so this is a great group of collective individuals on the defensive side of the ball, starting on the front end with Cade Curry. You're backing up to you talking about Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, and then clearly on the back end with guys like Jermaine Matthews Jr., and then you can't forget about the All-American safety, Caleb Downs. And then you even talk about getting depth into, deep into their rotation of guys up front and on the back end. It's hard to find flaws or issues with this Ohio State defense because they play so well together. And the great part about this defense is this: they're rarely in bad position. You don't see any blown coverages, even if the guy get a play downfield, because that's going to happen every once in a while when you playing great competitors and great teams. Because, I mean, clearly, let's be honest, they do some coaches and scouting they well. It's multiple hats at the ball carrier. This is signs of a great defense, and when you playing a great defense like this, when you have a great defense like this as a young quarterback, and your defense only gave up less than 25 points in the first 4 games of the season, you got a chance, and that's another thing that can help you with that confidence, right? Knowing that these guys got your back no matter what situation you potentially put them in.
You got Texas, Washington, and you got to play good defenses, so you got the chance to grow on the fly. So this was really good for Julian Sayin, but the defense, you're right. Team defense is always hard to beat. We talk about those service academies and teams like that. That's exactly what this was today.
22 points, the fewest points allowed through 4 games since 1973 for Ohio State. Ryan Day was on with me on Friday. I think he's going to have to join me every Friday so we can talk ball.
You get a Buckeye sticker this week.
I should get a sticker. I'd like to have a sticker. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe I'll talk to Cardale.
It's face paint.
Maybe you know a guy.
Where do we see resistance here? Penn State, and then the last game of the season. That's what I see. We'll see what happens. Ohio State off to a 4-0 start. They go on the road and win their Big Ten opener over Washington 24-6 on CBS.